Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph Gutierrez, and this is covering compounding. In today's video, we're going to look at what I consider the ultimate passive income asset. There are many different assets out there, all of which have relatively large amount of risk for any passive income. What we're going to be going over today is an asset type that gives us consistent passive income, low risk, principal protection, tax advantages, and leveraging capabilities. And for many people, it's the last place they would expect to find it. Let's check it out. When studying financial products and strategies, the inquisitive entrepreneur or investor may look at many different paths, different wealth generation vehicles. Stocks, bonds, real estate, farmland, starting or buying a small business are all common vehicles and assets to build personal wealth. That said, the savvy investor usually wants a little bit more. They don't just want an asset, they want the best asset. They want stable growth, they want limited to no market downside exposure, maybe something they can use as leverage, tax-free profits. But the number one thing that tops the list is passive income. Passive income seems to garner the imaginations of every investor. The problem, though, is that none of these common vehicles are truly passive. And if they have a passive element to them, they tend to have substantial market risk that defeats or ruins the whole model. I can buy bonds for fixed income, but I have to pay a tax on my gains, and the bond market can fall apart, as we saw in 2022, and erode my principal. I can buy and hold stocks, but I don't get much yield, and I'm exposed to market risk all the time. Not to mention, if I sell, I have to pay capital gains tax. Real estate investing? As someone who invests and manages his own real estate portfolio, I can tell you that real estate investing is nowhere near close to passive. Not only that, but you are dependent on a fickle and unpredictable input, the renter. And not to mention, real estate investing can get expensive quick. No, while all these vehicles are viable and great for gaining long-term wealth, the problem is they aren't particularly safe nor truly passive in the same sense. We want an asset class that builds wealth for us in a passive manner and safe from market distress. We want a passive asset that can be useful now, useful later, and if we can get it tax-free, then all the better. So how can we accomplish all these things? It seems like an impossible task. Well, there is one asset that allows passive compound growth, safe principal protection, leveraging abilities, as well as tax-deferred growth / tax-free access. It also happens to be the one asset class that everyone trips over: permanent life insurance, specifically whole life insurance. Putting away the fear-mongering from financial gurus and ignorant Reddit users, let's peel back the curtain and see what is there. Whole life insurance is a contract that provides a tax-free death benefit to the owner's beneficiary. It acts like a little mini tax-free trust in a sense, although technically not a trust. Because of the death benefit is tax-free, if we honor basic IRS taxation rules, the cash value is also tax-free and can be used throughout the life of the insured or owner. This is where we need to focus to understand the asset class potential, the cash value. That's our growing tax-protected liquidity that we can access, usually through policy loans, to deploy for our own benefit. If it's a participating whole life carrier, then we can have access to a guaranteed return as well as an additional non-guaranteed dividend. This is not only our passive income, but it's also our growth factor. Every year, we get a compounding effect from the guaranteed interest and the non-guaranteed dividend. And because they naturally grow the death benefit, they also grow the cash value proportionally. The other misconception that people have is that we have to fund our whole life policy through premiums every month or every year for the rest of our lives. This is blatantly untrue. Policies can be structured to fund for a short amount of time, like 5, 10, 15 years, or however long the owner of the policy wishes. Through concepts like reduced paid up election, we can stop all future contributions to our policy, and our cash value maintains its level and continues to grow even without further premium contributions. Yes, we can think of whole life insurance like planting a tree nurturing it for the early part of its life, and then letting nature take its course and grow for us. And just like planting an apple tree, we can come back a few years later and grab a bunch of apples with little to no maintenance. We'll use the following example for context. So we have a 40-year-old healthy male who funds his policy putting in $20,000 a year for 7 years. The policy was designed for maximum cash value and to minimize unnecessary death benefit or other policy expenses, just raw cash value growth. We can see that $20,000 in the first year translates to $17,198 of cash value and $500,000 of death benefit. In our 8th year, our client doesn't want to fund the policy anymore and elects for a reduced paid up. This is optional because the client can continue funding the minimum base premium of $2,045 to maintain a slightly higher death benefit and cash value if he wants. That said, for our client's goals, his main priority is to fund the policy and then let it maintain and grow on its own and use it throughout life. As we can see, our break-even period where the cumulative premium equals the net cash value takes place in about year 5. This is where the policy turns us a profit in the sense of additional liquidity. This is cash value that can be seen as our own personal bank account, one that grows interest outside the clutches of Uncle Sam and his tax schedule. So now that we have the concept understood, let's go over a simple example of use cases with some real numbers. All right, let's say we're in the market for a new car. The car we want will run us $40,000. The traditional way of purchasing the car is with cash or most likely a car loan. In using a bank or the dealership, we may be paying 5 to maybe 7% interest on the purchase of the car. But let's think about this for a little bit more. If we used an auto loan, we're solely paying off the car and gaining title to the vehicle, but we trade something huge without realizing it. We traded that $40,000 of interest earning ability and gave it away to the bank. We lost the ability to build on that $40,000. $40,000 isn't working for us anymore. It's effectively gone. Instead, what if we borrowed from our pre-capitalized life insurance policy and then pay ourselves back over time? What's the major difference? Okay, so if we borrow the $40,000 from our policy against the cash value and we use that to fund the car purchase, then we can take however long we want to pay our policy back. The important thing to note is that the insurance carrier doesn't care if the loans are outstanding or not, because to the insurance company, they got to pay out that death benefit either way. So if there's a loan out, they'll just deduct the loan amount from the death benefit unless and until it's paid off. This is true so long as we have a minimum amount of required cash value, usually in the 5 to 10% range, to avoid any kind of lapse condition. In our example, we didn't even pay anything back into the policy for the first year. This is one of the added benefits of borrowing from our policy. We have loan repayment flexibility. Now, besides the flexibility, the other obvious benefit is that our $40,000 is still working for us inside the policy. Because it's a policy loan, that $40,000 is technically from the coffers of the insurance company, and $40,000 of cash value is pledged as collateral. And because our cash value is still safe inside our policy, it's still growing interest for us. Remember, these policies tend to have a 4 to 5% per year tax-deferred internal rate of return over a 30-year period. The cash value prior to taking the loan came out to about $165,597. We then borrow our $40,000 and pay our loan back comfortably over a 7-year period. At the end of those 7 years, our cash value accrued to $226,067. This is what we mean by $40,000 is still working for us. Our example showed that we grew an additional $60,000 in cash value during our payback period. Now, of course, we paid interest to the insurance carrier for the loan, but we also grew on the full cash value amount in the meantime, the collateralized amount and the non-collateralized amount. Generally, the policy loans are in the 4.5% to 5.5% fixed range, giving us the added benefit of low loan internal cost. So to sum up, with the auto loan, our $40,000 plus the car loan interest disappears and all we're left with is the car. With borrowing from our cash value, We continue growing compound interest on our 40,000 as well as the rest of our accumulated cash value. The interest was paid back to the insurance carrier, but the loan helped us passively grow an additional $60,000 of total cash value. And to be even clearer, of that $60,000 of total growth over the payback period, roughly $10,000 to $15,000 came from our $40,000 collateralized cash value amount. So in essence, we kept our $40,000, built an additional $10,000 to $15,000 cash value, and got the car. Pretty cool, huh? This concept is called debt recapture. We are effectively holding on to our capital inside our personal banking system and continuing to compound on it. Okay, now let's take it to the next level. What if instead of buying a liability or an expensive toy, what if we bought a true asset? What if we bought an investment? Let's model a real estate investment. Let's say we found a mid-1980s 6-unit apartment complex in pretty good condition. The down payment plus closing costs plus a small amount for renovations will cost us $150,000. Now, for the average investor, $150,000 might be a bit hard to come by. Maybe it's tied up in other assets or 401k. Luckily for us, we have this whole life insurance policy that we funded years ago, accruing for us all this time. Now, in our example above, the owner is buying the property in the 20th year, the 20th policy year, but we could have bought this much earlier. Generally speaking, we can loan up to 90 to 95% of our cash value at any given time. As we can see from our example, we reintroduced the same strategy, but one major difference. We didn't pay back the loan for a long time. No principal, no interest payments for about 10 years. Again, unlike home mortgages or HELOCs where you have to make payments immediately, we don't have to pay back our whole life policy loan for years so long as we have adequate cash value. Now, of course, you can make periodic smaller loan payments back into the policy, like in our car example, if you want. It would probably be better over the long run, but we did want to stress the point of how the loan would look and work out with long, no payment deferral period. So in this example, our client purchases the property, stabilizes it, raises rents, collects the rental income, and holds it for about 10 years. The owner can collect the rent produced by the property as rental income, and his policy is still growing tax-deferred cash value in the background. As we can see from our ledger, our loan follows the same process. Our available cash value and total death benefit does decrease by the loan amount, and our cumulative loan amount does grow over time. But the great thing is that our total cash value column is still growing while we wait. Our policy has become the engine that can run itself, even with a $150,000 outstanding loan amount, of which we have made no loan payments during this 10-year period. This is one of the big ways that whole life insurance can build wealth for us over the long run: passive growth and liquidity access. And what about our client's exit on the investment? Well, he can simply refinance and pay back his policy loan or just sell the property outright. In our example, by his 30th policy year, he's paid back his policy loan with interest, and his cash value has gone from $259,793 and accrued in the background to $393,218 after his loan payback. That is an interest growth of $133,425 on his cash value, almost equal to the initial policy loan. So our whole life policy paid for our investment paid us rental income and capital appreciation when we refinance or sell, and we still accrued an additional $133,000 while we held our investment. We grew twice. We grew in our investment and we grew in our policy's cash value. I hope you can see why we see whole life insurance as the ultimate passive income and tax-free wealth building tool. Many investors miss this generational wealth building ability of cash value life insurance, but now you have the knowledge to use this to be the ultimate financial asset. Can you see why we call this the foundational asset? Uninterrupted compound interest that grows and we can access tax-free. Okay, great. So what's the caveat with all this? Well, you do have to work with an insurance advisor that specializes in high early cash value whole life policies. Now, many insurance advisors don't like putting these kind of policies together because it hurts their commissions. With us at Cover and Compounding, we just focus on giving our clients the very best the industry has to offer and be a knowledge resource so they can build their own family's wealth. If you'd like help putting together your own maximized whole life policy for cash value accumulation, feel free to click the link in the description. It'll take you to our webpage where you can see much of our information. We have articles. We have a book now button where you can sign up for a free online consultation. And during that free online consultation, it's basically a discovery call. We'll go over your basic needs, what you're looking to do with a policy, and how one can best fit with your financial goals so you can build your family's tax-free wealth with the ultimate passive income asset. Thanks again for watching. Feel free to click like and subscribe. Ring a bell, leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing you on our journey towards building wealth with a foundational asset. Until next time.